Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the Three Topics Gamer, here to give you another episode of my weekly Q&A to how the people's questions were answered, a series of questions that have been sent to me over the past week. This episode, we got another primary 4 questions, only 4. There were a number of other questions I was able to answer in the comment section of the previous video, and I did get a number of questions that I just couldn't answer because I felt I was either the wrong person or they were just asking me something that just felt a little off, and I just didn't feel like putting it in the video. So before I get into the primary 4 questions for this particular episode, like always, if you happen to enjoy this video by the end, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please do not forget to subscribe because every subscription really does count. And jumping right into the first question, and these are mainly all regulars. I believe there's maybe one new person. And it's, once again, Brady Burrick. I don't know how many times you're always the first one to do it, but your question was, do I think anyone is inherently good or bad? Probably not. I think we all have the capacity to do good and bad things. I think what determined whether we do good or bad things is pretty much just our situation, or things we've learned, or habits we've picked up from other people, or things we've seen, or things we've heard about. I don't firmly believe that anyone is just born evil. Something had to have happened to them to have to push them to make a bad decision or just do a horrible thing. Just like, if you have a healthy lifestyle or you're living in a good family situation, you will be more, more directed to do more good things. If you're living in a really bad situation, then you'll more likely do bad things. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been many instances that I've at least heard about where someone was in a really good situation and for whatever reason they just did a horrible thing. There's nothing in their background that says that they were either, mistreated or what could have led to this, maybe something that the parents missed. It can happen, but to your primary question, no. I just think that it depends on the situation and the person. Each person is unique. We all have the capacity to do good and bad things. Just, that's just how I think things are. Next question comes from the Batman of Neil Gotham, and you want to know, would I like to see a remaster of Metal Gear Solid 3 for PlayStation 5, or do you believe the game is perfectly fine on its own? The game is perfectly fine as it is. I've said this countless times. I do not trust Konami to do anything with this franchise. I don't trust them to do anything. If they were to do a remake then of one, as far as I've heard, or an updated version, I would hope that someone else would take the reins and would do it for them. Konami just provide the license, let another developer actually develop the game. But I do not trust Konami with this franchise, no matter what they do. They have proven themselves that without Kojima, they simply do not know what to do with this IP. And that's how I firmly do believe. Next question, I believe, is the only new person, although this name does look a little bit familiar. And your question is the old boy 123, and you want to know, what fandom can I just not get into? Oh, there's a bunch of fandoms I can't get into. I'll name off a few. I can't get into Halo, can't get into Red Dead, can't get into The Witcher, can't get into Fortnite. What else? Can't get into Gears. Can't get into Gran Turismo. No, those are just a few franchise fandoms that I, for one reason or another, I just can't get into. I mean, if other people, they're big franchises and they have their loyal collection of fans, but for one reason or another, it just doesn't work for me. And the last question of the episode comes from Red Guilty, and you want to know, what video game franchise has the most interesting lore, characters, and world building, in my opinion? Well, obviously I'm going to go with Metal Gear, for obvious reasons. It's my favorite franchise. And I think it has a really great collection of characters. It has a lore that expands about 60 years and actually incorporates real-world events into its story. And that's something that no other franchise, I believe, actually does. They like to make up their own storyline. But when you can take real-world events and actually work them into your story and make it feel organic, I think that is a very, very rare talent. Now, I will admit that as the franchise went on, the world building did get a little bit kind of ridiculous with the use of PMCs, which is a real thing, and nanomachines and systems of control, and I will admit it did get kind of ridiculous, and Metal Gear Solid in general has its fair share of ridiculous things, but I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons. So yeah, I would go with Metal Gear. I wouldn't recommend Metal Gear for everybody, but I'm saying that that is a franchise that for me I have always enjoyed the most, more than any other franchise. And that about does it for this particular episode of the People's Questions. If you guys have any more questions you would like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me roughly before next Wednesday, before noon, before I start filming the next episode. And remember that it is only one question per person, and if you want to increase your odds of making and having your question make it into the video, just make sure they're a little bit more interesting, or I will be sure to answer them in the comments down below right here. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next week.